Which brings us to Europe. They were bracing for a full-blown trade war, but then Trump hit the brakes. The tariffs are on hold for 90 days. So Europe is now in a limbo. They have 89 days to strategize. What is their game plan?
China has appointed a new international trade negotiator following the outbreak of the devastating tariff war between Beijing and Washington.
Today we are witnessing exactly such a moment. Europe has come under threat from a colossal wave of goods pressure from China. And this is not just another trade reshuffle. It is a full-scale economic expansion, triggered by a chain reaction set off by American tariffs. The reason, strangely enough, lies in a decision made far beyond Brussels, in Washington. Donald Trump, known for his sharp and consistent economic doctrine, was the one who set in motion what is now called the new wave of global protectionism. By imposing tariffs on Chinese goods, he aimed to strengthen American industry. And yes, the United States did begin to cut imports from the East in order to protect its own industries. But China's export capacity is not a trickle that can be turned off with a single valve. It is a dam, and if you block it on one side, it will burst through another. That other side turned out to be Europe. Since the end of 2024, European ports have begun to record a sharp increase in imports from China. According to Eurostat data, from the last quarter of 2024 to the first quarter of 2025, imports from China rose by 6%, while exports from the European Union to China, on the contrary, fell by 3%. This is an alarming signal, but even more important is the structure of imports. The share of consumer goods from China is growing rapidly, from textiles to electronics, from teas to household appliances. And this poses a direct threat to European manufacturers. The hardest hit are Italy, France, and Germany, the countries where mass production industries still exist. Shoe workshops in southern Italy, textile factories in Lyon, electronics in Dusseldorf, all of these are now facing the threat of extinction. The paradox is that consumers are happy. They are getting cheap goods. In a time of declining purchasing power due to inflation, a low-cost alternative is a lifeline for family budgets. But this benefit comes at the expense of industrialists. And if they disappear, what will remain in 3 years? Here lies the essence of the hidden threat. Even if European politicians do nothing right now, the consequences will catch up with them later. When manufacturers vanish, workshops shut down, unemployment rises, and the European Union becomes dependent on Chinese supplies not by 20 or 30%, but by 60 or 70%. That is no longer trade. That is strategic dependency. And Europe understands this. That is precisely why Brussels has launched its first anti-dumping investigations. And it's not just about low prices. There are well-founded suspicions that Beijing is deliberately selling goods below production cost in order to push out competitors and take their place. This behavior is classified as dumping and, according to international WTO rules, requires a response. And here the intrigue begins. Is China really dumping, or is this simply the result of global imbalance? Beijing officially denies the accusations. They claim, we just have low costs, we are efficient, we have streamlined supply chains. But European analysts are not so sure. According to their data, Chinese goods in a number of categories arrive on the European market at prices 30 to 50% lower than even the domestic Chinese price. How is that possible? The answer lies in subsidies, hidden state support, and manipulations at the level of export pricing. There is also another key factor: logistics. China has taken over a huge share of European online platforms, including Amazon, Wish, and Temu. Through these channels, goods go directly to consumers, bypassing traditional wholesale networks and tax filters. Here's a shocking fact. A product that costs 110 euros in a European store can be ordered from China with delivery for 38 euros. How is this possible? Partly due to tax loopholes. For small parcels under 150 euros, a simplified customs clearance scheme is applied. This means that small Chinese sellers can effectively bypass the tax burden faced by European companies. And that is why the outcry today is not coming from corporations, but from small and medium-sized businesses. The Spanish Confederation of Shoemakers sent a letter to the European Commission stating, "If this continues, we will disappear within 12 months. People are buying Chinese shoes for 3 times less, and we cannot explain that to them." The European Commission is already considering possible countermeasures. Among them, the introduction of temporary anti-dumping duties on several categories of goods. But here the question arises, won't this lead to higher prices? The answer is obvious, it will. But the alternative is even worse. A lack of protection means the collapse of the industrial base. And after that, Europe becomes a hostage. Moreover, not only the economy is at stake, but also geopolitics. China is striving to strengthen its influence in Central and Eastern Europe through investments in infrastructure projects. And if EU countries start to push back, Beijing may cut off funding and threaten retaliatory sanctions. In other words, this is not just a battle for markets, it is a battle for political influence. But let's step away from politics and look at the numbers. Over the past 6 months, imports of toys from China have increased by 13%, small household appliances by 12%, and kitchenware by 15%. And now, attention, the production of these categories in Europe has dropped by 7%. This is not a coincidence. It is a direct correlation, and this is confirmed even by independent German economists. The German Institute for Economic Research, DI, released a report that states in black and white, if the situation does not change in the first 2 quarters of 2025, Germany will lose 60,000 jobs in the light industry. France, another 40,000. Now think back to how many people were affected by the pandemic. Now they are taking a second hit, this time to their wallets. Many fail to notice that this flood of cheap goods is the result of the American window being closed. The United States blocked Chinese imports through high tariffs, including on electronics, textiles, and metals. Beijing found itself in a trap. Domestic demand is weak and production capacity is enormous. To keep factories from standing idle, they need a market. The United States closed its doors, so Europe is next. And that is exactly what is happening today. China is flooding the European market with goods, washing away competitors. And the European Union cannot respond quickly enough, due to complex decision-making mechanisms. Germany is in favor of tariffs. Hungary is against. France cries out, "We're losing factories," while Poland says, "It's profitable for us, let them bring it in." Paradoxically, if the European Commission imposes protective tariffs, consumers will lose. If it does not, producers will lose. Both sides will suffer in the long run. And that is the central drama. Because amid this dilemma, China continues to expand its presence. Logistics hubs for Chinese exports are already being built in Eastern Europe. Agreements have already been signed with several ports in the Balkans. Negotiations are already underway with specific regions for direct investments in exchange for loyalty to trade flows. This is a strategy, and it is working. So, where are we? In the very center of a new trade storm. The United States started the wave. China redirected the impact toward Europe. Europe is paralyzed by internal contradictions. Local producers are dying. Consumers are satisfied. Politicians are afraid. The economy is losing its stability, and this is only the beginning. So think, comment. Are you in favor of protecting domestic manufacturers? Or do you believe the market will take care of everything? Are you ready to pay more for European goods? Or is it better to save and buy Chinese products? Share your opinion, because right now, Europe is deciding whether to be self-reliant or to become a commercial appendage of the global Chinese conveyor.